Won't you give me more? What is up, everybody? This is Dominic Syracuse from the WyORIGINal Podcast, and we are broadcasting live from the Wyoming International Film Festival. This is happening at the Laramie County Community College, specifically in the beautiful Spa Theater. We are having 5 days of films. We have 150 films from dozens and dozens of countries. We've been seeing films from all over the place, everywhere from Spain to South America to the UK to the United States, and even locally. I have the privilege of sitting here with some of those filmmakers themselves. Please welcome my very special guest. Why don't you guys tell everybody your names and which films that you worked on?
Hi, my name is Tom Procida, a director of My Dear Aunt Sally.
And my name is Heather Kennedy. I wrote and co-produced with Tom, My Dear Aunt Sally.
I love it. So tell us a little bit about the film.
So it's about a 8-year-old boy. He's just got super crippling anxiety that makes it really hard for him to enjoy his childhood. He starts going out on these little weekend outings with his Aunt Sally, and she's just a real free spirit. And just by hanging out and spending time with her, he starts to just absorb some of her life philosophy and is able to start dealing with sort of the random chaos that, is real life and that you have to learn how to cope with. And so he, over the course of time is able, you see him start to handle everything better.
That's really cool. So just to be clear, it's got absolutely nothing to do with the mathematic process.
Okay, so you're the first person to really point that out. And in fact, it does.
What? Really?
I think my kids were studying order of operations at one point, and I didn't even realize they were studying it, but I must have heard it in the background or whatever. And I was like, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. And I was like, oh, that sounds like a story. It's a mnemonic for math. But I was like, well, if you have an Aunt Sally, then there's a niece or nephew somewhere. And if they're embarrassed by their Aunt Sally, then maybe she's kind of like wild. and it just grew from there into what it is now. So it's not as much having to do with that. But yeah, it kind of started off as, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, and
that's so funny.
Title first.
That's so. See, this is the creative process at work when you're a creative person. Is you hear something like that, and then your mind goes in 15 different directions, and you go, "Wait a minute, that's really." So that's a beautiful story, and it's super important right now, especially with young people. There seems to be a bit of an epidemic of anxiety and depression amongst the youth. And so what was the inspiration aside from the order of operations? What was the inspiration for the story itself?
Yeah, I mean, when I started thinking about what kind of kid would be, embarrassed by their aunt, I was like, well, he's probably maybe a little uptight,
Yeah.
And so I started thinking about a really anxious kid. And one of my sons, when he was really little, like 3-4 years old, sometimes we try to take him out to do things and he would just balk, he'd freeze.
Yeah.
And and that got a lot better over time with therapy and all kinds of stuff. But it breaks my heart when I see kids who just can't enjoy their childhood.
Yeah.
So I just want kids to be able to have a childhood and not worry about stuff.
Gotcha. And mentally, where did Aunt Sally come from? Is there a lot of you in Aunt Sally, or is it more of just your archetype of what a free spirit is?
There's a lot of my life philosophy in there, as far as you can't control everything that happens in the world. You can only control your own reaction to it. So that part, I wouldn't say I'm, all wild and crazy and freewheeling like she is, but I'll break some rules, or I'll just try to, if something awful happens, I try to, make the best of it and not dwell. So
Gotcha.
That comes through. Yeah.
That's awesome. So let me ask you this. This is for both of you. Where are you from? Where is the film out of? Where'd you shoot?
Austin, Texas, in the Austin, Texas area.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. Is that where you're visiting from? Is Austin,
Yes.
Texas?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. How's the film scene in Austin?
I think it's great for small independent productions like the one we're doing. There seems to be a lot of camaraderie and there's a lot of talent, obviously, with our young young actors. Amazing.
Yeah.
So there's talent, there's resources, there are certainly some opportunities there for sure.
Yeah, I'm very fascinated with Austin, Texas, because I know there's been some classic films that come out of Austin, Texas, most notably, of course, it leaves my head right as I'm thinking about it.
I think you want to say Dazed and Confused.
I do want to say Dazed and Confused. I was about to say. First, I went like, definitely not Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, Dominic. What are you doing? No, yes, Dazed and Confused out of Austin, Texas. But after the pandemic, I was in Los Angeles, and that's what brought me back here to my hometown of Cheyenne, Wyoming. But so many people rerouted to Austin. It was almost like Austin was kind of this, LA Junior, where you had both creatives and tech industry folks going like, let's get out of here. Let's go to Austin.
Yeah, definitely tech for sure.
Yeah.
No doubt about that.
Right.
But lots of actors, lots of the talent has moved to Austin. I don't know if as many filmmakers and crew and things like that have migrated to Austin, but we have a good organic, farm team. I don't know if you want to call it, but I mean, very professional people, but it's also a small community. I mean,
in Austin,
you find somebody who works on something and then they know somebody you worked with. I mean, it's a pretty tight knit film family there. In fact, there's a woman who had a short here that screened here yesterday. She PA'd on our film that's here.
No way. Are you serious?
Yeah.
So everybody knows each other.
It just seems very cool and tight knit, huh? That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, how long have you been in Austin?
Like 24 years.
So you've been there.
Before, yeah.
You've been there a while.
Yeah, in Austin.
Awesome. And then how many films have you directed at this point?
So this is my third film to direct. This was the first one that I didn't actually write.
Really?
Which was a really challenging, scary thing to do because of someone else's work. And when I read the script, it really spoke to me. And then COVID happened, so we had to put everything aside. And then I'm sitting there one day and I'm realizing, oh, F. This is,
you could say whatever you want on. It's fine.
My father was a very shy, introverted child, and he had an aunt who, for her time, was a very open-minded, sort of forward-thinking woman.
Yeah.
Now, this is the 40s and 50s now we're talking.
Okay.
But still, and that really shook me, and I thought, this is something, obviously, that I have to do. And I don't always know if that happens to every film director, but it's the first time that's happened to me, was to be that connected to a project. But it didn't hit me immediately.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? So let me ask, how did you come across the script?
Well, Heather and I, we've been friends. We worked on some other projects, some 48-hour projects.
Okay.
And she's a prolific writer and a wonderful one. And so I read the story, like I said, and she handed it to me and thought I could do it. And I am just so grateful to have the opportunity.
That's awesome. So had you seen some of the films before and liked it? Is that kind of how that worked?
Yeah. When we first met, I wrote a 48-hour film project that he acted in, but we didn't even meet in the production of that until the screening. And then he started doing more writing and wanted me to, read for him, and he read for me. And so it wasn't even that we started thinking about collaborating. We were just giving each other notes back and forth. And then he got to start making stuff, and I saw his first 2 shorts and everything. So I felt like my little baby was in good hands.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. So some more directorial questions. I know that in the industry, it's a big thing about working with kids, right? They say no kids and no animals, right? Those are the tough ones to work with. How was working with your lead for this one?
So just a little backstory. So I've been an actor since, the 80s, and I've been in a lot of productions. So I've worked with kids
since he was 2 years old.
So I've worked in a lot of productions of varying budget levels, and I've seen what works and what doesn't work. So yes, children. So on that topic, first of all, when you cast a child, you're also casting the parents.
Oh, wow.
They're on the set.
Wow. What a very cool way to put that. I never thought of that before.
And so beware. But in this case, they were fantastic. The parents were absolutely fantastic. And the boy actor was absolutely amazing. He might very well be one of the best actors I've ever worked with.
Wow, really?
Drop his name.
His name's Brody Stowers.
Brody Stowers. How old is he?
Stowers. He was 8 when we shot it.
He was 8 years old.
8.
Really? And what was the casting process like for that?
So we posted the breakdown of the roles on some Facebook pages, but also some other professional pages, casting networks,
Right.
breakdown services, I believe. Yeah. And so we got submissions from really all over Texas, mostly in the Austin area, but San Antonio, Houston, Dallas, maybe even some ones outside of the state. And they would send in a video audition, and we would just kind of screen from there. And, it was one of those situations where once we saw him, we all agreed that that's the.
It was unanimous, huh?
Yeah, without a doubt.
It was instantaneous, and
he was just so grounded and believable, and we just felt like he could just fall apart at any moment.
Wow. So was this his film debut, or is he one of those kids who's been like, oh yes, this is, I've been doing this since I was 8 months?
I'm happy to say that this was his first lead.
Wow.
Yeah.
He's done a few other things,
a couple
and
of
some voice work too. But
oh, cool.
Yeah. And I'm proud of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm proud of that.
He's been booking stuff ever since. So you're gonna keep seeing him.
Spy Kids thing, a new Spy Kids film.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm just dropping all kinds of.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So let me ask you this. You said that you were an actor first.
Yeah.
Is that where your foray into film started, was with acting?
Yes.
Awesome.
I still do some.
Yeah, still act. How much does that inform your directing?
A lot. I guess every director has a style. Mine is to work with the actors. Tell the story through them, rather than fancy shots and wardrobe and such. But all that's important. Don't get me wrong. It's all important. But I get people around me that know that sort of thing. They know what lenses to do.
Right.
And I have some cursory knowledge of it, sure. But I like to let the actors tell the story, because that's what I know best.
Right.
Yeah. And so casting's really important. And when I cast people, I make sure that when I cast them, they're already about 80% of what I want.
Yeah.
Because we don't want the production days to be an acting class. You
right.
know what I'm saying?
Right. Absolutely. 100%. Yeah.
Because I've been there as an actor, and I've seen what happens. It's a mess.
So that's really cool to put that, because, as acting is my primary art form. And I know that when you get a role, your job as an individual actor is to take the script and tell your character's point of view, your character's perspective. That's what you need to be focusing on. As a director, it's much different, right? Because as a director, you now have to tell the entire story. So is it kind of like a level up from acting preparation? Or do you find yourself trying to figure out each and every one of the characters' motives and all of this and how it all melds together? How does that work?
Yes. I literally was in my living room acting out all the parts.
Really?
Yeah, even
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, even the grandmother, just to hear it and to move around and to see, and where there needed to be some dialogue changes, which were very minor, by the way. Great script.
Really?
Yeah.
Hey, that's awesome.
Then I would make them or suggest them to Heather. I think you actually made the changes, but literally walk through it as an 8-year-old and just tried to see what he would see.
Yeah.
And then just communicate with the actors in pre-production after casting, but before we shoot, through texting and messages and whatnot. Obviously communicating with his mother, but getting the message to him about what I was looking for. And like I said, when we got to the set, it was just making minor adjustments.
Right.
They were already there.
So speaking of the adjustments to the dialogue, so you wrote this script, and then how long is the film roughly?
10 minutes.
Okay, so it's a short.
Yeah.
Now, when you write, how precious are you about word for word perfection versus, hey, this kid's got some good ad lib chops, in the moment day of?
I think there can be certain specific lines to be really precious about, whether it's maintaining the intention and there's a reason those words are there in that order.
Right.
But there's other stuff where it's like, it doesn't matter what phrasing you use, or if something feels more comfortable coming out of your mouth a different way, that's fine. As long as, I think, and this is why I will advocate for writers being on set, because they can lose the intention.
Right.
if they change something, and that is going to take a lot of work to go back and fix, or it might not be fixable and it comes through on film and something's lost. So, having a writer on set who can change things, but keep the original intention from changing is important.
Awesome. And were you on set every day?
I was. We were
Excellent
partners in it. Yeah.
Excellent. And so were you doing like kind of changes in the moment? How much did you have to adapt the script to surrounding situations?
Not very much at all.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So yeah,
You're pretty set.
The actors were pretty spot on with their dialogue.
Amazing.
Really just word for word practically.
See, and this is interesting. I mean, I have, let me ask you this one more quick thing is, do you write other than screenplays? Do you do any other writing?
No.
Really? So you're screenplay specific?
I am. I just write scripts. I like the constraints. Constraints give me more creativity, and it's a real puzzle to solve to get things as visual as possible on the page, but in a very short, concise way. So that's what I get out of it. If you told me to write a novel, I would just freeze.
Oh, okay. So that's I
need the constraints.
That's so interesting. With your acting background, did you act in theater?
Yes. Started with theater.
I started with theater as well. And, in theater, it's so much different because it's almost like the words are precious. I've had script managers in theater literally come up to me and say, you said everyone come here, and the line is everyone come down here, and we can't miss that word, and so you get really precise on that. But it sounds like, with screenwriting, you take a little bit different approach. Is it just conveying the story that's most important, conveying the emotion? What would you consider as the top priority there?
I think conveying maybe like a real central relationship, because I think when people leave a movie, they may not even remember did the team win the ball game, or were they just really positive? But they remember that like the son and his father connected.
Right.
So I think that core central relationship, and of course My Dear Aunt Sally is basically just a central relationship, So I think that's what has to come out. And then when you're talking about like dialogue and things coming out, that's where you really find the characters, their voices. And, I do kind of pride myself on my dialogue writing and being able to write in all those different voices. And that's fun.
To add to that, I just want, I like to stick to the script as much as possible, but certainly not a hardliner about it.
Right.
Certainly. I just want to make sure that the performances are as authentic and, believable as they can possibly be. And if just one word needs to change, if it just comes out that way, let's let it happen. This way it's not manufactured.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one last question before we let you all go is, what do you hope people take away from My Dear Aunt Sally?
For me, it's just kind of the lessons that Luke learns, which is, or you said we could swear. So, one of my favorite lines, little pull quote we use for My Dear Aunt Sally is, "It's what you do after the bird shits on you that counts."
Oh, I love that. I love that.
So kind of like what I said at the beginning, you can't control every circumstance, but you can always control how you react to it. And I think that's what I want people to leave with, as well as knowing that they can be an Aunt Sally for somebody else. And if you have an opportunity to be that adult in another child's life, then, take advantage of it and help them see what it's like in the real world.
I love that.
I'll second that, but also and add that if you are a shy, introverted child, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
That's amazing. Now, has the film already premiered at the festival?
Yes.
Okay. When did it premiere?
Yesterday at noon.
Oh, wonderful. Now, let me ask you this. For anybody who's watching this and is now piqued and really wants to watch My Dear Aunt Sally, is there a time, a place they can see it?
Well, we're still going through festivals.
Right.
So you could attend one of the festivals that it's in. You can look at we have a Facebook page, My Dear Aunt Sally. We keep it updated on where it's going to be screening. At some point when the festival runs over, we'll probably put it out there somewhere on some platform.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And how about any of your other work? Where can they see any of your other work?
Go to doubleskyfilms.com. Doubleskyfilms.com. Yeah. And from there, you can either send me a message, or also on Facebook, you can go to Double Sky Films, and you can just email me, and I'll be happy to send you links to the other two. One of them's on Amazon Prime, but just get with me and I can send you a link if you'd like to see it.
Sounds amazing. Sounds amazing. Thank you both so much, not only for coming on the podcast, coming to the Wyoming International Film Festival, coming all the way to Wyoming from Austin. This is super. We're so happy to have you. And thank you so much for sharing the art that you have.
Thank you. Thank
really
you.
appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. All right, we're good. Thank you all so much. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
That was so great. I'm sorry I've been trapped in here doing these interviews, so I haven't had a chance to see the films like I wanted to. I really want to check out.
Reach out and
This sounds.
And what is this? Where is it?
Okay, so this is on the it's broadcasting a couple of channels to Facebook. Why don't you give me Why don't you give me more? 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 What is up, everybody? This is Dominic Syracuse from the WyORIGINal Podcast. We are broadcasting live from the red carpet of the Wyoming International Film Festival, where we are experiencing hundreds of films from dozens of different countries all over the world, all over the United States, and even some local. I have the privilege of interviewing some of the filmmakers themselves. I have an amazing filmmaker here coming all the way from California, right? Why don't you introduce yourself to everybody and let us know which film is yours?
Oh, hi, all. I'm so delighted to be here. My name is Julie Sharbit. I'm here from Los Angeles.
LA.
Oh, yeah, just a few of us here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what film are you representing here at the
Oh,
festival?
Right. That's important too. That would be my my thriller comedy Scam.
Oh, I love it. Now I love the genre thriller comedy. Now, first of all, when we talk about thriller, this isn't a remake of Michael Jackson. That's not, she didn't scam Michael Jackson for this. Now, what do you mean when you define a thriller comedy?
Well, I talked about this a little bit at the screening yesterday. Everything I do, I mostly work within genre and within comedy. So everything I do is some sort of emphasis on tension and release.
Love it.
Yeah, like it's such a human thing to just like want to explode in like a gasp or a scream or a laugh. So that's where I work, and that's that was the intention with Scam, was to create something really tense and cool in a 7-minute run.
Yeah.
And then let us like enjoy the sort of fallout at the end.
Absolutely. So let us know, without giving too much away, what is the film about?
So, I mean, it's about phone scammers. It's about a real jerk of a phone scammer who scams the elderly, which is a real thing happening right now.
Big
all
time.
the time.
Big time.
The worst. It happened to my mom, which was a big inspiration.
Mine
of this.
too.
Yep, it's the worst. And so it's about a phone scammer. She's doing her thing, and about halfway through, she gets a phone call, late night phone call, that turns the tables on her and rocks her back on her heels to a pretty literal extent.
That's awesome. But would you say that the film is heavy with comedy?
Yeah.
Would you say that you wrote it as a comedy?
100%. 100. It's like a sort of Hitchcockian comedy. I mean, it's noir. Okay. It's but it is 100%, and the intention is to really like have some belly laughs at the end.
That's excellent. Now, are you a comedian specifically?
Not well, yeah. I trained in acting. I have an MFA in acting from NYU, so I was a theater
Amazing.
actor. Yeah, I was a theater actor in New York for a long time, but I also did stuff at UCB and was in improv.
Yeah.
So both have been true. I love character-driven narratives, but I also love just like wild, hilarious, like roll on the ground laughter.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So you and I were very specific. This is the part where we're gonna geek out for a second, so you can tune out anything that you're about to. I as well. So I studied Stella Adler in New York, and then out of NYU as well,
cool.
which is wild. And then I went to LA and I did Groundlings. I didn't go the UCB route, so
Nice.
I was doing more stuff over there.
Yeah.
So how much of your improv training do you bring into when you're writing and,
Oh, so much. I mean, so much, because all of my scripts are finished. Every like period, every comma, every colon is supposed to be there. That's my jam.
Yes.
But it comes from a space of real freeform creativity where I write very much how I speak and how I joke.
Yeah. So that's kind of so then the real question is when you're on set, and you directed the film as well?
I did.
Okay, so you wrote and directed it.
Yeah.
How much freedom do you give the actors for improv?
So this is another thing. I'm actually also the actor in the film, which was not the original intention, but it just sort of fell out that way.
Right.
But I'm very respectful of other people's scripts when I'm working on them, directing them.
Yes.
But I am also very, very, when people mess around with my words, I get really upset because they're there for a purpose. I really want to liberate the actor, but do it within a way that I have really blueprinted to the letter, So yeah. And it's interesting because the film has it has a very sort of improvisational feel, but there is only one improvised line in the entire thing.
You're joking.
Mm-hmm.
Now, was the improvised line coming from you?
It was. So I felt okay about it.
You're like, it's fine. It's funny. Like, there is a bit of irony of like, yes, I'm a trained improviser. I don't let anybody improvise on my scripts,
Yeah, well,
but
I like to keep scripts tight. And I think like that's where improv can go wrong.
Absolutely. And I was just talking about this with on in the other interview with the filmmakers, is that you might not think it, but theater and film can be very, very different. While they are very closely related and have so much similarities, there are some big differences. Now, being trained in theater first, like we both were, they are very big on you being word specific. It's almost like the writer is God. You absolutely get these words right. They, like you said, every colon, every period, it's there for a reason. And that really threw me when I started working in film, because I thought that I had to be like word specific on all this stuff. And then, you have these, I've been on sets where the filmmaker would be like, yeah, the words aren't great. Just kind of do whatever, like I just need, this is the general feel, so just do whatever you want on that,
I think too, that stuff can go really well as long as like you trust each other. Like if you know each other's vibe, you know each other's strengths, like that can be great. I did a feature film out of grad school with a bunch of other NYU grad actors called The Weekend that my friend Brian Averiss directed. And that film was 100% improvised.
Really?
But we spent 3 weeks, Mike Lee style, like developing characters and relationships. And so we knew what the parameters were.
Right.
And, it's a loosey-goosey film, but it's very it has a narrative form.
Gotcha. Now with this film, how many it's you as the one, I'm assuming, getting scammed?
Oh, no.
Oh, you're the scammer.
I'm the villain. I am very much the villain. Yes.
That is exciting.
Oh,
how fun was that to get into character?
Super fun. I mean, getting into character is interesting because I really I was so prescriptive about it. It really wasn't a big let me be in a corner for a while and figure this out. It was I know what the beats are. Let's just execute. So there wasn't a lot of I don't know, method.
Right.
But it was super
you
fun.
You weren't calling people and phone scamming them for research.
Yeah, no, not at all. I mean, I guess as a director, it was more fun. My my co-actor, Jackie Welch, who's just a phenomenal Nashville-based actress, classically trained, amazing actress.
Now, is this who was playing the old woman getting scammed?
Yeah. So so we shot them separately. We weren't in dialogue, even though it is a conversation that takes place on the phone.
Okay.
So she's doing all of her lines, and I'm sort of giving her direction per line, essentially pretty prescriptively per line. And she was so game. She was so so down to just change things up and take my silly notes and lean into beats, lean into tone. It was so cool and fun. That was a blast for me. And then my side of it was also fun, but it was mostly just all right, let's get the shot.
Yeah. Well, and that how difficult was that? Because you're the first one that you're the first filmmaker that I've interviewed that has directed, written, and acted in your piece. How difficult was that when you're acting to one, step away from the camera, trust the shot, I'm imagining, right? And then also, did you find yourself in writer brain as you were acting? Did you find yourself in director brain as you were, how'd you compartmentalize everything?
It was actually not, it wasn't that, well, it was challenging, but I had a lot of stuff going for me. And one was that the film was storyboarded to its teeth. Like,
amazing.
It was totally like every frame, every composition was already blocked out. So I knew what everything would look like. I knew what all the extreme close-ups would look like. I knew what all the wides would look like. So that was super easy. It was all mapped out before I even sat down or started acting.
Awesome.
And then on top of that, like the biggest asset that I had was my producer, Whitney Willanen, who is based in Nashville and is a bomb-ass producer and director in her own right.
Yeah.
So she's amazing. And my DP, my cinematographer, Kat Castro, who's based in New York, the two of them are like dear friends who I trust with my life. So, between the triangulation of our perspectives was essential.
Awesome.
So I had these great collaborative partners, and everybody else on set was amazing too, of course, but they really enabled me to trust that I knew that I was getting the shot.
That's awesome. Now, this sounds like this was to put this film together. You're talking about you got Nashville-based actors, you got New York-based producers. Yeah. You're in California. Where did you shoot?
We shot in Nashville.
Really?
Yeah, essentially, what happened was I had written this for a fellowship that I was on the bubble for, and then it fell through. And then Whitney, who was based in Nashville, was like, "Well, that sucks, but like, come here. We'll just make it."
Wow.
Yeah, and she has an enormous like resources and crew, and she had this red Komodo camera, and so yeah, like pretty amazing. So just like shoestrang. Yeah,
shoestrang. That's definitely you spend a lot of time in Nashville.
Yeah.
Shoestranging
it. We just shoestrang it. And yeah, so we shot it like in a friend's garage. And
perfect.
Yeah. And like, we paid people for their work, and everybody else got paid with love and tiny sacks of like Cheez-Its and stuff. So yeah, we shoestrang it and we made it, and then like now it's taken off in festivals, which is
cool. And how many festivals has it premiered in?
Holy cow. We started in April. We premiered at River Run, which is Oscar qualifying in Winston-Salem. We played at the American Pavilion Emerging Filmmaker Showcase at the Cannes Film Festival.
Amazing.
In May. So that was cool. We won Best Short Fiction at the Nevada Women's Film Festival just 2 weeks ago.
Excellent. Congratulations on that.
Thanks. So we're cutting a swath, and hopefully like spooky season horror film festivals will greet us with open arms too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You got that whole run coming up, right? In the fall. That's amazing. Now, and I got to talk about this because we had the privilege of sitting next to each other yesterday. So for the Wyoming International Film Festival, we're like, all right, thank you so much for coming and visiting Wyoming. We're going to make you feed buffalo. We're going to bring you to the bison and feed the bison. How was that experience for you?
I mean, that was so much fun. And like, that's the joy of being in festivals and seeing new cities where you would never maybe have an opportunity to go do something like that otherwise. It was such a blast. I'm also like a big horsewoman, so I love.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I love horses. I love like nature. I love getting out. So that was quite a treat for me.
That was great. Yeah, we just thought it was so funny. When Rudy and I were talking with the festival, because he was like, do you think the filmmakers would be interested in going on a train and feeding bison? And it was just kind of like when you hear, it's kind of like when you're developing a script or and somebody throws out this wild idea and you're like, sure, why not? And that's been so many people were like, can't believe
yeah, no, that was a big selling point. My mom really wanted to come to this festival, and that was a major reason why, and she didn't end up coming, and she was just like, just take a lot of pictures on the bison. It's like, okay, mom.
That's super cool. So so for anybody who wants to check out Scam, and I know you're doing the festival run right now, so for those that don't know, when films on a festival run, festivals are very specific about they have to be the only one showing it, so it's very difficult to see. And you've already shown here. You've already premiered here. In fact, you're right after this interview, you're heading out back to
sadly
LA.
I wish I could stay for Frontier Days. I'm very sad I'm missing Frontier Days.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I hear you. But there's always the Wyoming International Film Festival next year. I'm sure you're gonna have another fantastic film to bring to us, and then you can stay a little longer.
Yeah, hopefully a feature. And meanwhile, if you follow Scam on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, you can find us there. Twitter. and we will be in festivals that have like geo-blocked ticketing, I think, and
Right.
like festivals where you can watch it if you buy passes to those festivals too. In the meantime, though, like my earlier short horror film 3 Days is on Alter. So
Okay.
Alter's amazing. Alter's a super amazing platform of short horror films. I highly recommend checking them out. But I am sort of hoping that we end up on a great place like that, like at the end of our run.
That's great. So for, where can they follow Scam on the socials?
I think on Instagram it's scam_short_film.
Okay.
I think it's the same on Twitter, and I think it's the same on Facebook.
All right. Scam_short_film. Check it out. Watch the brilliant writing, acting, and directing in that. And so thank you so much for coming out. Thank you so much for being a part of the podcast.
I've
We really
loved being
appreciate you.
here. Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah. So cool. Oh my God. Thank you so much for that.
Of
Wait, so
course.
are you undergrad?
Why don't you give me more? 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 don't you give me more? Why 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 don't you give me more?
Best to keep like.
No, let's go both. Let's go both as soon as it's done. Blow your ears out with the music. What is up, everybody? This is Dominic Syracuse with the WyORIGINal Podcast. We are broadcasting live from the red carpet of the Wyoming International Film Festival, where we get the opportunity to see hundreds of films from dozens of different countries, and some of those filmmakers are here. We've interviewed filmmakers from all over the world, from Europe, from South America, all over the United States, from New York to Los Angeles to Nashville, and some local filmmakers as well. And I have to say, I am so stoked to have a local, I'm considering you local, Wyoming local. Is that all right to do?
Of course, that's fine.
Awesome. I am here with Anthony. Why don't you tell everybody your name and what film you are here representing?
Yeah, so thanks for having me. My name is Anthony Stengel. We just finished watching a block of films here at the festival, and I did The Steel Sculptress.
Yes. Now, we were fortunate enough to see a block called Home on the Range, which was all about life on the Front Range. And it was really cool because, you know, a lot of those films were kind of like preservation films, right? There were a lot of films about, you know, how do we preserve the Western way of life. But what I loved about your film, on top of many things, I'm going to be raving about your film for this entire interview, but one of the things I love was yours was much more about being more progressive in Wyoming, right?
Yeah. So it features my friend, my childhood friend, actually, who I grew up with. Her name is Betsy Bauer. And she is she calls herself a metal worker or a sculptress.
Right. Right.
She does all sorts of things. She does welding, blacksmithing, and she creates this amazing metal artwork.
Absolutely. Just astonishing the artwork that she creates with it. I mean, it was gorgeous. And the thing that struck me most, I found I related to her quite a lot. When I don't know if it's her very first line of dialogue in the film, but she says something along the lines of like, you know, she looks at folks like Da Vinci and Benjamin Franklin and these artists that completely these Renaissance people who are these visionaries who change the world. And she was like, I was looking for the female version of that, hadn't seen it, so I just decided I'd become that. And then it cuts to her literally heating up metal and smashing it and making horses and trees, and it was just so cool.
Yeah. Everything she touches is just amazing because she's a true artist. But yeah, I would to go back to the progressive part of what you said earlier. Yes. So she's a talented artist, circus worker. She's also a queer person in Wyoming. Has done a lot of work with Wyoming Pride, things like that.
Awesome.
So she's just the embodiment of I don't know. She's also a woman in a man's field. That was something else that we kind of looked at, you know, because inevitably, you know, like there's a scene in the film where she's like she's at her dad's shop.
Yes.
So her dad, that's kind of how she got her roots in all these skills, just hanging out in her dad's shop. And there's part of it that I really like is, you know, she's lifting up this giant air compressor tank and she's like, oh, that's as heavy as me, you know, but it's like, part of me was like, well, we have to put that in there because, you know, she not only she just has physical limitations as well,
right,
in certain ways, but she's tough as shit.
Yeah, I mean,
sorry,
you could
if
tell.
I can say that.
No, yeah, say whatever you want. She is. I mean, she has. I mean, that was the first thing, you know, right when I was interviewing Anthony in the Q&A after, I was like, your lead was a badass, just a complete badass, and it was so cool that you had the opportunity to follow her. And I understand you were saying this is kind of a trilogy you've done of women artists in Wyoming. What are the other films that you've done?
Yeah, so one that was in last year's festival here was called Fire Spinner.
Amazing.
And Fire Spinner is a story about my friend Miranda, who is a lifelong rancher, and she spins fire. So she has these crazy like props that she it's hard to explain, I guess, but it's kind of like Polynesian fire spinners, you know.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure people have seen that, and that's where she was introduced to it. And she went there on like a family trip to Hawaii.
Okay.
And saw these fire spinners. Like, that is cool. My parents aren't going to let me do that right now, but that is super cool.
Yeah.
And but yeah, so that's one of the films. And then there was another one called Dying Light, which features another friend of mine. Her name's Connie Morgan. She has a neon shop in Casper called Glow.
Oh, cool.
And so she's a neon tube bender.
Wow.
And she restores old signs. And also, she's very humble about it, but I would consider her an artist as well. Sometimes she might be getting there. But yeah, she collaborates with and creates art with her neon. So she'll like collaborate with other artists, and she collaborated with Betsy, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And there were two like little ravens where Betsy did the raven part of the sculpture, and then Connie added neon accents.
That's so cool. I mean, I talk about this all the time because I grew up in Wyoming and then moved off to Los Angeles. And then one thing that kind of struck me about LA was when I grew up in Wyoming, I know so many incredibly gifted artists, just very, very talented human beings. And it doesn't matter what their medium, whether they're sculptors or painters or musicians and everything. And I think growing up in Wyoming, we tend to, at least I did, idolize film and music that's all coming out of the bigger cities like Los Angeles and New York. So when I moved to Los Angeles, I was really anticipating it to be this next level of artistry. And what I found was, it really wasn't. There were very talented artists there, but the most talented artists I met were about the same as the most talented artists I knew in Wyoming. And I think the reason was because here in Wyoming, we don't have much to do. So if you pick an art form, you have the luxury of being able to be obsessed with it and make that your, put it. Malcolm Gladwell said that, 10,000 hours of work, right, is what you need to put in to become a master. Yeah, we can get that in about 10,000 straight hours from right now because there's nothing else to do.
Especially during the winter. You're
trapped somewhere. So it's really cool that you're going to highlight these artists. And I have to give you kudos because you as an artist were fantastic. I mean, we're seeing films from all over the world and we're getting films from Los Angeles, New York and everything. And right away, when I saw your film, everything about it struck me. I mean, the cinematography, the direction, the quality of your piece was it was so cinematic and it was so professional. And right when I saw it, I was like, okay, this is probably like $1 million production out of LA. And then it's like Casper, Wyoming. And I was struck by your editing. There was even a little moment where in the beginning, you had this really cool, zoom shot into a map that said Casper and then a zoom out and someone was driving. And I was like, whoa, how long did that take in post-production? My gosh, I was blown away by the quality of what you do. How long have you been doing this?
Well, first of all, thank you. It's always hard to as an artist, you kind of look at your work and you pick it apart very, very hard on it. So it's amazing to always hear that. And I'm getting better at taking compliments.
Yeah. Sorry if you have compliment thresholds. I'm just going to plow right through all of that.
Well, you're very sweet. But yeah, so I've been doing this since 2017, 2018.
Okay.
I took a photography class in college, like a film photography class, and that was really cool. And my parents and my wife and my people close to me say I have a good eye.
Yeah, definitely.
But so I think some of that is maybe what's contributed to what you just said earlier. but yeah, I'm self-taught. I worked in healthcare for 12 years.
Really?
Yeah. So I worked in healthcare for 12 years. And I've been telling people for a long time that I've always kind of been an ographer, but I'm an X-ray tech. So,
Oh,
radiographer, right?
yeah. You're like, I shoot outside and inside of anything.
Exactly.
I can shoot the inside of anything in this room.
Of you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
That nobody wants to see that show. Trust me.
what you have for lunch?
Exactly.
But no, yeah. So I YouTube University and the School of Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
Failure is the best teacher for sure.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
so-
It's also the meanest teacher I've ever had. Failure.
It is, but it's the most honest.
The big time. It's a really good point.
So yeah, I mean, if you can learn to, I've always thought that if you can learn to embrace that,
Yeah.
and go along with it and not be scared of it,
Yes.
I think there's a lot of people that, or I guess maybe this is probably, it's getting a lot better from when we were kids.
Right.
But it's like, don't do bad. If you mess up, that's bad. And it's like, I try to look at it the other way. It's
absolutely.
be open to it. And that's I think maybe
That's-
that's how I learned.
No,
It's
I
just
think
like
I
messing
think
up over.
well, I think that's the absolute best lesson that you can teach anybody in the arts or anything, is that just like we're talking about, failure is a teacher. It's not something to shy away from. Is even with stand up. When I started doing stand up,
Yeah.
I tell people this all the time. I wanted to begin doing stand up around, I mean, for as long as I can remember, but
Yeah.
when I said I was going to start was maybe 2008. I actually did my first stand up set in 2019.
Oh, wow.
So it was that long. And the thing that scared me so much was it was the fear of what if I mess up? What if I don't do well? What if I suck? What if I get booed off the stage? What if I bomb? All of that. And the funny thing is I finally started in 2019 and all of those things happened, every one of them,
Right.
But they happen quick. And then you look at it as an artist or whatever your passion is, and you go, all right, I didn't like that. It didn't hurt as bad as I thought.
Yeah.
But what do I got to do so that it doesn't happen again?
Yeah.
And then you keep working on it and keep working on it and keep working on it. And the funny thing is, within a year, I was, professional and getting paid at it. And it's really funny because now I look back at those times and I was like, wow, like you said, the failure became the best teacher, because as soon as you adapt from it, you're no longer afraid of it.
Yeah.
You're like, oh yeah, I experienced that. I know how to handle it,
Yeah.
and then it's on to the next failure. It's like,
Exactly.
where do I need to grow from here? Right.
Yeah. But if you apply that to your next failure,
Yeah.
you'll be able to, we're going to get all philosophical.
No, that's it. That's what we do. That's what I do. That's how we do it.
No, I love it. I'm here for it. But yeah, dude, you just apply it to your next failure and you grow and you build this foundation, but you have to have that foundation of, drive, desire, and passion.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's those choices, right? I mean, that's really what makes the difference. Is anybody can try anything, but if you have, and you will fail, it's guaranteed. I promise you.
Yeah.
And then when you do, that's really the crossroads. It's like, okay, do I give up because that was terrible and I don't want to feel that again? Or do I say, yeah, that was terrible. How do I move forward and grow from that?
Yeah. Totally.
And it's funny because I heard Jerry Seinfeld one time say, whenever he sees a stand-up comedian absolutely crush, he doesn't think, wow, that guy's talented. He thinks, man, how many times has that guy fallen on his face, to be able to get to that point?
Right.
And it's cool because from the very first shot of your film, right away, I the first thing I thought was, man, this is just breathtaking and brilliant and it looks amazing. So now my question to you is, how many times have you fallen on your face?
I mean, well, it's happened, right? So, I mean, I don't know if a specific story pops up, but essentially you just have to be willing to be vulnerable, man. And you just have to go out and when I set out to make a film, it and this will kind of bleed into my subjective view of my own work,
right?
Which I think a lot of artists feel and can probably relate to, but it's not just, I just want to make it better than the last one.
Yeah.
And maybe the sound is better. Maybe my composition is better. Maybe my color grade is better, or my storytelling arc is better, or whatever. And so, but it's all grounded in that passion to learn and eagerness to try new things. And
I love it. So
yeah.
What do you got in the pike? What's coming up next?
Well, so I guess I could say this, next weekend, the Fire Spinner
Yes.
So that's actually up for a regional Emmy, and so
congratulations,
Yeah,
that's
thanks.
fantastic.
Yeah, so we're going to be going to Denver to see what happens with that.
Yeah, that's
literally
great.
next Saturday. And so that's happening. I have a lot of so I run a production company out of Casper, and so I have a lot of corporate and client work that keeps me busy. I'm currently have a few things kind of brewing, but nothing super solid, because the next thing I want to do is a feature doc.
Oh yeah.
So really for me, the process of that is finding the right character
Mhm.
and finding the right story per se too, because I don't think that I might be the best character or best director to take on any story, I want to pick the right one. So I have a couple in the works that are, we'll say, soft starts right now.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I want to see what's coming, I guess. But but always just even in my client work, always trying to make it a little bit better. And so, yeah, I don't have any thing dropping big bombs this is what's coming up, but we'll see, man. That's the cool thing about it.
I want everybody watching to have an opportunity to check out, Fire Spinner, right? Which is congratulations on the Emmy nomination. That's amazing.
Thank you.
And then also the Steel Sculptress. That it's such an incredible film. Where can people check that out after the festival circuit?
Yeah, so it's actually online right now.
Great,
so,
great.
Yeah, so you can check it out. My website is probably the best place to look at all my portfolio of work. And my website will directly take you to my Vimeo, but my website is stengelmedia.com.
Okay.
So STENGEL
media.com. All right.
Yeah.
So in the banner below, you see Anthony's name. It's the last name, media.com. That's where you can check out all of the work. Is that where most of your films?
Most of pretty much all of the notable work I've done. Maybe sans a couple.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it's when you have your company, and I'm constantly at a computer, sometimes updating my website is the last thing I do.
Yeah.
But there's good stuff. It'll keep you busy.
Awesome. Well, Anthony, it was an absolute pleasure having you on. The
Thanks,
film's
man.
fantastic, and all the success is very, very well deserved.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Go. Thank you. Yes. You are the best. You are a king. I know. Sorry. Yeah. No, that's. Why don't you give me love? Why don't you give me more? 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 don't you give me more? Why 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 don't you give me more? What is up, everybody? This is Dominic Syracuse from the WyORIGINal Podcast. We are broadcasting live from the red carpet of the Wyoming International Film Festival. It has been an amazing past couple of days, and we've only got a day and a half left. We have seen hundreds of films from dozens of different countries. I have had the opportunity to interview filmmakers from everywhere, from Europe to South America, New York, Los Angeles, all over the place. And now I have the opportunity of having some filmmakers in from Utah, which is super, super exciting. Why don't y'all introduce yourselves and let us know which movie is yours?
Okay, how's it going? My name is Brandon Caraway from Utah.
Utah!
Right next door. Our film is called The Handbook. It's about two missionaries who visit the home of a wicked lady to bring her a Book of Mormon.
Yeah, that's what it's about. And my name is Hannah Grace, and I was the producer and production designer.
And co-writer, right?
And co-writer, yeah.
And co-writer. That's very, very cool. So this is a film, as you said, about two Mormon missionaries, and it's a horror film, right?
Yes, horror comedy.
Yeah, like black comedy.
Yeah.
Oh,
comedy.
That's very, very, very cool. So tell me, where did the idea from this stem from?
Well, we both served Mormon missions. Brandon served in Chicago, and I served in Chile.
Very cool.
And I think we just felt like we needed to make a movie about our own backyard, like something that we'd experienced. Not exactly what happened in the movie, but just like our own experiences with people. And that's kind of where it, and Brandon can talk more about like specifics.
Yeah, so it's kind of the missionaries have a lot of rules they have to follow. And so we kind of wanted to, I was obsessed with the rules as a missionary. And so we kind of wanted to make a movie making fun of ourselves as missionaries.
Oh, that's awesome. So a lot of it had to do with the rules of,
Yeah, pretty much the whole thing is a short film about the mission rules.
Okay. So does the horror come in when this wicked woman is forcing you not to follow the rules? How does that work?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, pretty close. They get into situations because they broke rules, and then the rules also cause more stuff to happen.
Gotcha. Now, when we talk horror comedy, are we talking more along the lines of Get Out, or are we talking more along the lines of, Night of the Living Dead or something like that?
I wish I could associate with Get Out. I don't know. I don't know if
Yeah, I think more Night of the Living Dead, where it's so there's two characters, one who's really obedient, one who's more lax.
Yeah.
The lax missionary usually gets a good amount of laughs from the audience.
And a lot of his lines are actually improvised.
Yeah, he had a lot of
Really?
funny improvised lines that people usually laugh at. And then the story has like kind of a comedic element to it.
Oh,
I think people find missionaries generally funny or interesting because they're kind of a unique aspect of.
Yeah,
there are missionaries in every city across America.
Right.
So they're just kind of like this peripheral oddity.
Yes. Yeah. No. This makes total sense. Now, let me ask you. So, are you both still active in the LDS Church?
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say like another thing about the missionaries is like I feel like people find them really punchable. Like I think people like get annoyed with missionaries, even though it's like not our.
I'm sorry.
Directly,
Did you?
but I feel like that's how people like. They're like, oh yeah, like this woman's doing the Lord's work, or like I don't know, interesting takes on it. Which I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. So people on both sides, like people who have left the church.
Yeah.
Who love it, and then people who are still in it love it. So that's
great. And that's that's very, very cool that you're able to do that, because I know, and just to be completely frank, as a person of faith myself, I know that oftentimes if a movie is faith-based, it almost it can be very easily not appreciated cinematically, because it's like, oh, this is probably just like a puff film or what, there's that kind of stigma around it. So to be able to have a film that is, one, appreciated by everybody is fantastic. Two, to be able to make fun of yourself, I think is really huge, because oftentimes any movie that's about any faith can very often be very super, like almost take out any element of humor, and did I hear you correctly? Did you say that you feel like missionaries are punchable? Is that
I probably should be careful.
No, that was amazing. That's what I'm talking about, is that it becomes immediately relatable when you're able to look at yourself and go, listen, I get we're punchable. I understand. I have to tell that to my wife all of the time. I understand that I'm punchable. I get that, but
that was a big part of it. Was most of the films that had to deal with that were about Latter-day Saints were either made by members of the church, and they were super like preachy, ultra serious, like with the intent of converting, or on the other hand, they were made by people who left the church or weren't associated with anymore, and they were usually like angry or rude. So we kind of wanted to do one that was just like
walk the line
for fun.
Yeah, I love that. That's so much fun, and it sounds like such a fun and funny concept. So, where did you shoot the film?
Utah.
Imagine that. What part specifically?
So we live in Provo.
Oh, right on.
And then we filmed it in this town called Heber, which is like
Heber, of course.
Up by Park City.
The Heber Pass. I driving from here to Los Angeles, I take the Heber Pass every time.
Awesome.
So
we're proper Camas. I don't know if you ever drive to Camas. That's where we filmed it.
Right on. Very, very cool.
We were a little worried about it being in Utah. It's about missionaries, but that's probably where most of that kind of stuff would happen.
Yeah. Now let me ask you this: what was the casting process like for it?
That was actually really fun, because we cast a bunch of young men who were previously missionaries, which I think allowed for like some of the improv, and they're in various stages of like their own faith, like in the casting development. But it was cool to like be able to, I don't know, just be like, oh, what's a door approach? Like, show us what you did. So the casting was fun in Utah for that reason.
I bet.
Yes, and like she said, pretty much doing casting in Provo, which is where we did it, pretty much everyone had served a mission, so they kind of knew what we were going for.
Oh, that's awesome. So you mentioned one of the characters in it was getting a lot of laugh lines from the improvisation. Were they trained actors? Did they have a lot of experience before?
Yes, his name's Caleb Hafen, and he's gone on to do great things and will go on to do even greater things. And he was trained and very funny.
That's awesome. That's super cool.
And the other one was named Josh Fish. He had acted a lot before, but he didn't go to like professional school or.
He's actually a filmmaker who like kind of sidestepped and like got off crew and got into the cast.
Very cool. Now, how about the two of you? How many films have you? Is this the first film you two made together? How many films have you done?
We went into this weird phase where we wanted to make a film a week until we got like so suffocated by that. But we were on
A
like
film a week,
But
really?
yes, they were like
they got rough.
they were like shot on like no script, just kind of like for fun.
Yeah, we're like, we're in this hotel, let's make a movie in 3 hours.
And then just
But-
post
That's awesome.
We made
This
a
one
couple
we-
that
yeah.
are a little bit bigger budget.
right. This one
Bigger
we'd
budget.
probably put in like the medium budget for us.
Yeah, so I think we made like 3
Yeah, 3 medium
really
budget ones.
polished short films.
Now, tell me, I'm amazed. So how long have you had? You have to have a deep love for filmmaking to be like, let's make a film every single week. I mean, I have a very, very deep love for filmmaking, and I want to like make a film. Never. That sounds like a lot of work. I've grown very tired. No, I'm just saying. But that's so cool. How long have you both been passionate about filmmaking?
We actually met at the BYU film program. We met on like a whole student set. So I'm guessing for like 6 or 7 years individually. Maybe Brandon's longer. Then we got
Yeah, I
married
always
2
grew
years
up
ago.
watching movies, but it was actually on my mission where I wanted to start making movies. It wasn't till my mission that I was like, oh, I should make stuff. Before I just liked watching them.
Gotcha. What are some of your biggest influences growing up? Who are the filmmakers you love?
I love Brian De Palma
Awesome.
and any sort of like horror stuff like Hitchcock. What about you?
I was thinking Buster Keaton, which is like sounds kind of
Hey!
old school, but he's so funny. And I don't know. When I think of like my younger memories, like watching Sherlock Jr. and that kind of stuff it's really beautiful.
That's so cool. Well, see, this is how I know y'all are real filmmakers. We're talking about Buster Keaton. We're talking about Hitchcock. De Palma. I love that you're you're like, yeah, so on my mission, I'm watching Scarface.
Not exactly.
No, there's very strict rules about that.
Yeah. I was going to say, I don't know. Are you allowed to
In my
watch a
mind.
Brian De Palma film on your mission? I don't think
No,
that's.
but it's before and after. Lots of thinking about it.
Yeah, I'm sure
On
they
the
give
mission.
you, I'm sure they give you.
Repenting
Yeah.
about what-
I was gonna say that's so funny. I mean, like if there's one, if there's actually okay, just a quick pitch. Just hear me out. If you ever want to show somebody, like, listen, this is what a life of debauchery can look like. Show them Scarface. Like this. Look at this. This is what I just listen. I'm just throwing this out to any of the higher ups of the LDS church. Consider it. I'm just saying it might be a good cautionary tale.
Pro LDS media.
Yeah, we should say that none of the higher ups have watched this movie and like it.
Yeah.
Movie. So who knows that
No, that's so cool. I love it. So, are you have anything else in the work? I mean, do you always work together, or have you done stuff independently?
I've done a couple doc projects independent, and Brandon's done some projects before we met. But right now we work pretty much together
Yeah.
all the time.
And we're gearing up right now for our first feature, which we're shooting in May.
You're gearing up for a feature in May. That's awesome. Can you tell us anything about it?
Yeah, so it's about kind of a man wandering in Idaho and having like a faith crisis and like a belonging crisis, and it's like a drama. It's our first big scale drama.
There might be some extras that are Mormon adjacent or Latter-day Saint adjacent, but we're going to try and keep this one a little more secular.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really great. And do you already have the locations in Idaho? Because Idaho's gorgeous.
Yes, Idaho. That was the big part for our writer partner, was because they lived up in Idaho for a while and they had all these locations mapped out when they were writing the script. And yeah, every scene has a scene, like a location already attached that's specific to Idaho. So we're very excited about filming in Idaho, having those locations, having a final product.
Oh, that sounds incredible. So walk me through a little bit of the process when you were writing this film specifically, and how that goes through. I mean, do one of you just come up and go, "Hey, I got an idea," and then you just sit down and bat it back and forth?
That's a great question. Yeah, I feel like just talk. We like when we drive to Heber or we're driving somewhere, we like to just talk about ideas that we have, and then we bounce things off of each other, and then we start actually putting things down. So
Like
it's a lot of
as
like,
we-
yeah, it's a lot of like chatting beforehand.
Yeah, then we find locations, we find cast, and we change stuff, and it's nice how fluid it can be because we usually work with pretty small crews, but it's fluid because we can change things as we find new opportunities.
That's fantastic. That's really, really
It's
cool.
great.
So where are you at in the process of the feature? Is it already written or is it in writing or how
It's-
does that work?
Yeah, it's written, and we're just drafting, going through the draft process right now.
Yeah.
And then we have some funding. Yeah.
Great.
Level of funding is
Early stages for sure.
very early stages.
Yeah.
But
No, that sounds fantastic. Now let me ask you this. So going back to the handbook itself, how many festivals have you entered this in?
we did this thing. We had a actually advertised the film was advertised.
On Film Freeway, yeah.
So we paid for it to be advertised, and so we had a
Great.
lot of festivals reach out to us and to submit to them with discount codes. A lot of it was kind of scams.
Sure. Yeah.
As
It's
film
funny you
people,
say
yeah.
that. The person that I interviewed before this did a movie called Scam, another horror comedy, by the
Good
way.
one, very funny.
So funny. We
So-
love that.
So yeah. That's what.
But we ended up submitting to probably 50 festivals,
Oh, that's
varying and
And we're gonna go to 8 or 9 because it's hard.
Oh yeah. I mean, Megan, has the film taken you to a bunch of different places? Is this the first time?
This is the furthest we've gone.
This is the 4th. But yeah, it was the farthest.
We went to
yeah.
Boise. We went to Portland, probably is a little further.
Oh yeah.
And then we're going to LA for Screamfest. And then there's a big one in Provo called Film Quest that we're going to.
That's amazing. That's super, super exciting. Have you been liking the circuit so far?
Yeah, it's been awesome.
Yeah, super fun.
This one's been fun because it's one of the few that aren't genre specific. So it's been
Yes.
cool to
Check
be a part
everything
of it,
out.
check everything out, and be a part of a broader festival.
Absolutely.
international
Is this your first time in Wyoming?
No, my family actually lives in Sheridan, Wyoming, which
Really?
is where we're driving to right after this podcast.
Oh my gosh, that's a big one. That's a big drive.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So you're familiar with it. How about you?
Jackson Hole.
Oh, okay.
is the
All right.
only-
That is different
Yeah.
than where we are.
That's a
Just so
little
everybody
different.
knows, it's a much different thing. So yeah, did you get a chance to jump on the buffalo the
Oh,
feeding ride yesterday?
Yeah, the bison tour was amazing.
Awesome.
Definitely our
Top-notch
top.
film festival
Yeah.
activity.
That was awesome.
It was
We
so
keep-
fun.
I keep talking about it. I laugh so hard whenever especially the success of that, because when Rudy was talking about the festival, he was like, I really want to. He's like, I want to give the filmmakers something to do. What do you think we put them on a train and have them feed buffalo? And I'm like, sure. Okay.
Yeah, super unique thing that most festivals don't do. I
Yeah,
mean,
you
yeah,
just-
no other festival does.
I
So
mean,
it was
you're
awesome.
sitting inside watching shorts so much. It was just really refreshing to get out, interact with animals, interact with locals. It was so fun.
Yeah, well, I'm super glad that y'all came along and you enjoyed that. I'm so glad that we could host you at the festival. Your film is getting absolutely rave reviews. And for anybody watching that wants to check it out, where can they watch it?
They could reach out to us, right? Since it's still going to the festival.
Right,
circuit,
the
it's a
festival
private link.
circuit, yeah.
But if they reach out to us on Instagram,
Yeah, we're going to release it on YouTube hopefully right after Halloween. So then it's going to be open.
Yeah. but we're on Instagram. My Instagram's tricked-out7.
Tricked Out 7. Where'd that name come from?
It's his
Mine-
DJ name.
That's my DJ name.
Oh, you're a DJ on top of this?
It's also just my middle name's Patrick.
Tricked
Out.
Tricked Out. That,
Yes.
see, that's clever.
And
I
my
love
wife
that.
was born on the 7th of May.
They were
Oh,
seven
Tricked
comes.
Out 7. I was going to ask if you two were married. I didn't want to be rude,
Oh, yeah.
because I noticed your ring. And so
Yes.
I was going to, but how terrible would that be on a live broadcast? To be like, so are you two married? And it's like, and having this. I've
Yeah.
done that. I've done that before in stand-up shows. I'm like, so you two are together? And they're like, no. You're like, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're safe. You're safe.
So
Safe
you
here.
guys, so you two are married.
Yeah, we just celebrated our 3rd anniversary.
Well, hang on.
yesterday.
Congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
super, super cool. And so was that is that what brought you guys together? Was like a love of film and all
Yeah,
of
I
that?
think film and the Church of Jesus Christ. Those are our big two-
Connections.
Yeah.
That is
Those are really
super,
rough.
that is really, really cool. So when you say that you guys wanted to make a film a week, you're doing that as a couple, as a,
Yeah.
that
Thursday
like,
night comes around and I'm like, we gotta shoot something.
You gotta go out, get in the backyard, build a monster, all that stuff.
what an awesome way to like, to bond as a married couple. My wife and I do that through naps. We nap.
Hey,
That's-
that
We
might
gotta
be
take our
more
nap.
rejuvenating.
Yeah.
We need naps.
It's really great. Well, thank you so much for coming on. The film's called The Handbook. It's getting amazing rave reviews. Check it out. Message them on the socials so you can see it right when it comes out. And we look forward to all of the amazing stuff that you two have in store for the future. Thank you so much for
Thank you so
joining
much.
us.
Thanks so much for having us, and thanks to Wyoming International Film Festival for having us.
Thank
It's been
you.
awesome.
Why don't you give me more? 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 Why don't you give me more?
What is up, everybody? This is Dominic Syracuse with the WyORIGINal Podcast. We are broadcasting live from the red carpet at the Wyoming International Film Festival. We are showing over 150 films from dozens and dozens of countries all over the world, all over the United States, and some locals as well. I've had the privilege of interviewing some very, very fantastic and amazing filmmakers. I am super excited for this interview. I've been looking forward to this since we scheduled it. Why don't you introduce yourself to everybody and let us know what film you're a part of?
My name is June Inazuka, and I am the writer, director, and one of the producers for Dirty Rotten Tofu and the Gohan Girls. It's a Western, and it is featuring a pretty much predominantly Asian American cast with female leads.
Very, 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 very cool. And you have a very distinguished guest with you as well.
Hi, my name is Fuji Dreskin. I'm one of the producers. I'm also one of the illustrators, and I guess kind of all around been a part of the project since its beginning. I'm June's daughter, honored to be, and it's been such a gift to be a part of this project.
That's so cool. And I've got to show this off because it is just the coolest.
Yeah, so this poster, Matao,
Yes,
my brother,
son
my
did that.
sibling.
You see this here? I'm going to make sure we got it in frame. You see that there? Look at that poster. First of all, just look at the name of this. Just the name of the film, Dirty Rotten Tofu and the Gohan Girls. I'm in already just from the name itself.
You nailed the Gohan part. Love it.
Yes.
Usually it's like Gohan, which is cool. It's cool.
No.
Got the Gohan.
I'm all about it. So we're talking about and you said that your
My son did the poster.
Yeah, we worked
Yeah.
on it together. I did a lot of the illustrations. Or I guess I did the illustrations for the film and for the productions and the Kickstarter. But Matao, my sibling, they did this amazing poster that's the actual poster, and I only did a little things here and there, but credit on this one for sure.
I was telling you
Matao.
earlier, Dominic, I would not even be sitting here if not for my family. I had every friend and relative that I could get to help me on this film, and luckily I have a very talented children, and my daughter did everything from helping with costume design. She did the behind the scenes film. She did a lot of the initial character drawings. I can't think of anything in the film that she almost didn't do. And then my husband is sitting over there. He's also one of the producers and was the COVID compliance officer. My other daughter did the website, and she's a photographer. She does a lot of photography on it. I brought in my niece from Canada to work on it. I brought in my sister-in-law to work on catering. My whole entire family was involved in making the film, and I just couldn't have done it without them.
See, okay, so this is so cool. It was definitely a family affair. Now, I heard something that I really want to discuss with you. Now, first off, I know it is never polite to discuss a woman's age. That is not. So I heard you just celebrated your 24th birthday. Is that correct?
21 maybe.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Of course, some people might interpret that as 71, but I like to think about it as 21.
Yes. You're 71 years young,
Yes.
and this is your very first feature short. Is that correct?
Correct. It's my first feature and second film.
And yeah, and before this, you did a documentary. Is that
Right.
correct?
And that documentary, I just want to say, I love Wyoming. I consider it my adopted state because if you go to Rock Springs, my great uncle was a coal miner in the Rock Springs mine back
Very
in
cool.
the early 1900s. And his name is on the memorial in old Rock Springs downtown as one of the miners who got killed working in the coal mines. In Rock Springs.
Wow, really?
And that's what her documentary was about.
It's all about, my documentary was called Dharma Road, and it was looking for the grave of my lost great uncle.
Wow. See, okay, this is amazing. When did you make that documentary?
I think it was shot when I was actually in film school, about 2008. And then I think I finally made a film festival in 2015 and got premiered at the Japanese National Museum in Los Angeles.
That's so incredible. That's so cool. Now, so let me ask you this. I mean, you went to film school around 2005?
Yeah, but then I dropped out because I learned that if you make a film in film school with film school equipment, the film belongs to the school.
Yes, that is true.
So
Yes.
I didn't want my film to belong to the school. So I dropped out and made my film, which is basically like doing your senior film.
Yes,
And
yes.
I just did it on my own, and I rented my own equipment, and I used
Yeah.
all my friends. Well, actually, it was just one guy, friend of mine from camera techniques class, and the two of us just went on the road in Wyoming, and we went all over Wyoming with a Buddhist priest from my temple.
Wow.
And because apparently in the old days, there were small Japanese communities. Most people don't know this throughout Wyoming, and they didn't have any Buddhist priests. And so
Yeah.
in Denver, they used to once a year go on a little road trip through all these little towns in Wyoming where there was a Japanese immigrant population. And they would just do like weddings and funerals and little services there. So they knew all these different places. And so this one year I asked Reverend if I could just follow him.
Yeah.
And so I followed him. Two of us traveled around and with me and my camera guy. And typical, film students, when we got back to edit it, I said to him, how come there's no sound in this thing? And he goes, oh, I'm sorry, June, I forgot to turn the sound off. I was like, okay.
Yep.
I'm
Welcome to
sure
film.
anybody that
Welcome
makes
to film.
Yeah, it's like,
Oh,
okay,
my word.
what am I going to do? Okay, I know. I'll just do some narration over.
You know what? I just noticed we're not recording. No, I'm just kidding. I'm joking. That's hilarious. Now, I'm just so I'll be honest. I'm so inspired by you, and what you're doing, because, I mean, I know filmmakers. I'm in my 30s, and I know filmmakers who are starting out. Like I have friends, believe it or not, who are like entering their late 20s, and they're going like, "Oh, I feel like my time has passed." And I feel like that and everything. And me, I've been doing my art forms for 20 years, and I wonder about, am I going to keep doing this as I age, as I mature through life? Is this are you allowed to do this, like at a certain point? I mean, have you always wanted to be a filmmaker your whole life? Or is this just something that you're like, you know what? I'm just going to start doing this. I just feel like doing it. It sounds like a great idea.
I think if I were to say anything from my point of view is you just really can't predict what's going to happen in life and what
Yeah.
kind of things are going to change you. the one thing I think that's been consistent is from the time I was really young, probably around probably 5th or 6th grade, I decided I wanted to be a writer. And I could never figure out quite how to make a living out of it. So I eventually became a nurse. And then after that, I went to law school and I was a public interest attorney for several years, which I really enjoyed. I like jobs that involve helping people. And then I had 3 children, and I decided that the most important job I could have was to be a mom and to raise 3 really good kids. So that's what I did for about 17 years. And it was while I was at home, and I decided my son wanted to learn, what is it? At that point, it was like coding, I know.
Yeah.
And so I started learning those things on a thing called a computer. And I became sort of taken in by this machine and the things you could do with it. And I learned you can actually make stories with this thing.
Right.
And it was like, the modern age, how many people are really sitting down to read a poem or a book?
Right.
If you really want to have an impact on, I think, on society and things that people read, you really need to get into media.
Yeah.
So I started going to film school once my kids were big enough to go to school and not need me as much. And I started going to film school, and I thought, this is really fun. And so I did the documentary because I always wanted to do one on my family. And then when I was doing these trips through Wyoming and realizing, there's not very many films about the early Asian people who came here as part of the westward movement.
Yeah.
And I always loved Westerns, and I realized, where are we? How come we're just like the cooks in the railroad? And then I decided, you know what? I just want to make a film from my own imagination, the film that I'd like to see, that I wish existed but doesn't exist.
Yes.
It's going to be kind of crazy because I have very, sort of eclectic film taste.
Yeah.
Kill Bill was one of my favorite films, and I always wanted to make one with female leads. So this film has female leads doing action fighting. And I also like Star Wars. I'm a big Star Wars fan. I'm a big science fiction fan. So the saloon scene is basically the Mos Eisley Cantina on Tatooine.
Oh, wow. A name drop as well. That wasn't just a Star Wars rap. There are people who are like, oh, yeah, I love Star Wars. You just dropped the cantina from Tatooine. That is a deep cut Star Wars reference right there.
OG Star Wars fan here.
Pretty heavy fan from way back.
Yeah.
And then, I was watching anime when anime was still VHS in Blockbuster. It was one little rack. And so one of my favorite animes more recently is Trigun, which takes place on the planet Gunsmoke. And so the main character has, one of the things about that particular anime is that it has a very characteristic coat that the main character wears.
Yeah.
And the coat that my character wears in the film is based on that coat. It's not the exact same one, but anybody who watches Trigun should be able to pick that up. So there are, those kind of influences on the film. So it's sort of like a new take on a spaghetti Western.
Oh, awesome.
And so you've got the log line is 3 Asian women on the run from a Chinatown crime boss who wants them back, dead or alive.
Oh, this is so cool. June, can I just say, just officially, you're awesome. you are just a cool human being. I mean, it's so cool to hear your background in human services, helping people, and whether it's raising a family or helping people legally or with their health. But this is the coolest thing. And this, if you look at this right here, all right, this right here is like, this is cutting edge Hollywood cinema right now. This is to sound very, out of touch myself. This is what the kids are into, June. I have a 12-year-old son who is just obsessed with anime. He loves it. He's every day he's watching a brand new anime. He's working his way through the entire One Piece series right now. And he's obsessed with it. And then my younger brother, who's a filmmaker himself, he's in his early 20s. I mean, he's obsessed with Tarantino and all of this. And then with Hollywood right now, Hollywood's making a huge push for inclusion. So having an all-female cast or having an all-Asian lead and everything like that. What I'm saying is it's so cool to see that this is the kind of film that right now the younger generation is like pushing to make. And you were like, oh, I got that. I'm going to write it. I'm going to direct it. I'm going to get my whole family to come star in it. It's very, very cool how on the pulse of everything you seem to be with this and how it's come right from your imagination. I think that's great.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So let me ask you this now. It's premiering at the Wyoming International Film Festival tomorrow. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. What time can people come and see it?
1:30.
1:30. All right. So it's happening here at Laramie County Community College in the Spa Theater at 1:30. That's where the action block is, right? Now, you said there's fighting in the film as well?
Yeah, I was very fortunate. And again, anybody who's made an independent film, sometimes you're lucky and things just fall into your lap.
Yes.
I had this happen so many times in this film where people just really loved the what I was trying to do, and so things came to me, and one of them is Phil Tan, who's one of the this guy's been in Hollywood for maybe 30 or 40 years, and he's been working in stunt coordination and directing action scenes. And I was lucky enough, somebody knew somebody and talked to him, and he decided he'd help me out.
No way.
He directed the action scenes. And I was like, somebody just sort of learned at the feet of the master. I mean, he was, I think one of the fun things that I did, I think it's in the documentary, is I said, Phil, could you do me a favor and like try to hit me? He laughed and he said, sure.
Oh, like
and
the
then,
fake hit that
yeah,
you guys
he did
did
it.
at the end.
I got to fake a
That's
hit.
the
And then I
BTS.
said, one more thing. Could I hit you? He said, sure. I said, so what do I do? And he taught me how to like do a hit,
Unbelievable.
And this guy, I won a SAG award. I don't know if you know about the film Inception.
I've heard of Inception. Yes, the blockbuster Christopher Nolan film starring Leo. Yeah, yes.
Yeah, he won an award for his stunt work in Inception.
So you're telling me that the stunt choreographer for this film that
Yes.
you did was the stunt choreographer for Inception?
Yes.
Wow, that's awesome.
So I just was really lucky to have, certain things like that happen. And Phil was like, I couldn't believe I was working with him. Every time I was like pinching myself. I can't believe I'm working with Phil Tan. And he was so kind, so generous, really encouraged me and helped me. And it was great working with him. I don't even know how I even conceived of trying to do it myself. I'd never done you know how it is when you're first doing your first film. It's like, oh yeah, sure, I can do that.
Yeah, I'll do that. That's fine.
And then all of a sudden you're there and it's like, what do I do?
Yeah, exactly. Like, what are we doing? Spaceships with special effects? Sure. Why not? Never done it before. Let's try it.
Yeah. And, things happened all the time. I think, one of the behind the scenes issues that was real important to me personally was being able to make a film differently than I know it's been made before.
Right.
So, for example, somebody said, do these actresses have any makeup on? And I said, they're not supposed to have makeup on. They're like real girls. They're real women. They're not like, pinups. It's like, oh, okay. And there was another situation where someone said, I think your actress is pregnant. And I said, yeah, I know. And they said, what are we going to do about that? I said, nothing. And so but she's going to show. I said, well, things happen. Everybody, And
that's great. People get pregnant. I don't know if you knew that, but yeah.
And sometimes, in fact, many times, if the actress started that way, they're immediately fired.
Wow.
Once they become pregnant, just sort of like that's what's done. Or one of the actresses said, I don't know how to tell you this, but I've gained some weight. And I said, I didn't choose you because of how you looked. I chose you because of how you act and the kind of person you are for this part.
It's awesome.
And so she went, oh. So, I mean, there are decisions that you can make as a filmmaker that can really change how films are made, and it ends up being for the better of everybody. I had so many different decisions I had to make on the spot like that, and I felt really, really good to be able to make a decision that felt right to me, and not necessarily something that, oh, you know, it's going to compromise the film, or it's not going to be right, or something like that. I think you have to realize you're working with real people, and you're a team. Everybody's trying to get this thing done together. And most of the people that you're working with on a small film like this, they're not doing it for the money. They're doing it because they love film. And I think that's makes all the difference.
Well, June, I know that we just met and we've just been talking, and your daughter can help me out just to verify this for me. But it seems like you are just a very, very creative and visionary human being in general. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, June is leading by example. I remember she told me that one of the big reasons why she wanted to make this film was because she's like, it's one thing to tell your kids to like go after your dreams. It's another thing to just do it, to just show them as possible. And we've been watching movies together forever. You know, this is definitely
that was a completely unbiased point of view. I want your audience to know that.
No, it was, every time I try to explain how amazing and badass this woman is, I'm like, yeah, she was a nurse, she's a lawyer, man, she's fighting for women of color, she's been doing, you know, all sorts of like amazing stuff. And I honestly could not be more proud of this film, because there's a lot we filmed right after COVID, like 2021. She came through it, and it was not easy. And I think it shows that there's a lot of love.
Absolutely. Well, listen, the film is called Dirty Rotten Tofu and the Gohan Girls. It is primarily Asian cast, female lead, Western inspired by anime. Look right here, everybody. This is the future of cinema right here. You are seeing the future. You are seeing a very, very, very cool person. Thank you both for coming on the podcast. It's showing tomorrow at 1:30. Come check it out.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having us.
Awesome. You guys
Why don't you give me more?
What is up, everybody? This is Dominic Syracuse from the WyORIGINal Podcast, and we are hanging out at the red carpet of the Wyoming International Film Festival. We've had the opportunity of seeing over 150 films from dozens and dozens of different countries. I've had the opportunity of interviewing people from Europe, from Asia, from South America, from New York, from Los Angeles, and now I have my first repeat guests of the festival, and they are local here in Cheyenne. We didn't get a chance to get them on film yesterday from the live stream. We did audio only. I wanted you to not only see their beautiful faces, but hear more about their beautiful work. Could you guys do me a favor? Tell everybody your names and what films you are representing here at the festival.
My name is Matt Pinataro, and I'm here for the Parade Volunteers and Stroke.
And I'm Ben Silver, and I'm here for the same films.
Yeah. So we talked about your film Stroke a lot yesterday, which was made for CRMC. And in risk of repeating myself, the thing that struck me so much about it was just how beautiful your work is. The cinematography, the color grading, the shots that you get. Cheyenne has never looked more cinematic. I know I said this yesterday, but we're seeing films from Los Angeles, from New York, from all over the world. And the second I saw the first frame of Stroke, I thought to myself, oh, this is one of those $1 million productions from LA that, you know, is coming in. And then the second I saw Cheyenne Regional Medical Center and the helicopter, I went, what? Whoa. How in the world did you do that? And then getting to see Parade Volunteers, it was the exact same quality of work. It was really well done. Beautiful cinematography. It's just excellent. Couple questions. First, do you two always work together? I mean, are you guys a package deal when it comes to this kind of thing?
I'd say for the most part, we try to.
Yeah, I think we try to be. We've been working together for almost 2 years now.
Okay.
And it's been great.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And then are you specifically doing these, you know, Cheyenne specific films, or are you guys national with your work?
Well, we both, the linking thread for us is West Edge Collective, which is a marketing agency here in Cheyenne. So we're kind of, we do what comes to us, if that makes sense. So, you know, some projects are awesome and some are, you know, just got to get them done.
Right.
But yeah, we don't have a lot of choices over what kind of projects we take.
Right.
We get a lot of say on how the projects are completed, but when it comes to picking the films, we're kind of stuck with what we get. So
Gotcha.
it was a happy accident that we got these really, really compelling narratives. And what's neat is that once we do them, then the appetite. We've got a body of work now. We can show to other clients and say, hey, is this something that you'd be interested in? So.
Yeah, absolutely. And so now you primarily work as cinematographer on everything. And I've been, raving about your cinematography on both of these films. Who are some of your influences as a cinematographer?
I mean, there's so many good people working now, but I think, Fincher and Deakins are some of my favorites. Just the way that they can use natural light. Chivo, he did some incredible things with
absolutely
Revenant and Tree of Life and
Birdman, and
there's so many good people now who just keep elevating the game. It's hard to not look up to all of them.
Right. Now, how do you achieve some of the shots that you achieved? Again, we mentioned this yesterday, but it bears repeating. If you want to check out Stroke, which was this for anybody that's brand new, didn't get a chance to listen yesterday, this film, it follows the actual process with the Cheyenne Regional Medical Center of what happens to a stroke victim, from everything from the helicopter taking off to going into the emergency room and, getting through the staff, and you used actual staff for that. But the shots themselves were just amazing. From that first shot of the ambulance and all of that. What are you looking for when you're behind the camera? Is it all feel? Is it all eyes? Is it all storyboarded beforehand? What's your process?
Yeah, I think it depends a lot on the type of story. With the two films that we had in the festival, they were very different in that Stroke was very, storyboarded. We knew exactly what we were looking to get going into it. And Parade Volunteers was more of we knew the story we kind of wanted to tell, but we really needed to find it in the edit. And for that, we were looking for more, general shots that could help tell that story that looked good with natural light, because we're out on the parade route, and it's not something that we can light.
Right.
But Matt and I spend a whole lot of time working on the lighting. We like to go in and location scout to see where we'll be filming as much as possible, and then kind of craft what that will look like with the lighting to give us the result of what we have in our heads.
Absolutely. Now, let me ask you some directorial questions, because with Stroke specifically, looking back, there was a lot of action sequences in that. I mean, it's so many action sequences. Like it opens up with the ambulance ride, right, coming, and then on top of that, you've got the helicopter. I mean, you some of the most beautiful shots you'll ever see of Cheyenne with the helicopter in the air. I mean, how did you orchestrate these action shots?
So I had kind of a rough idea of what I was looking for those shots. Like, I knew I wanted to do is it a trailing shot? I don't know what the term is when you're hanging on to the back of me in Michelle's Jeep.
Yeah.
So is it trail? Yeah. So I knew I wanted a shot of the ambulance, and so for that, I had the camera on a handheld gimbal, and we had it all safety tied, and I was wearing a assault harness from when I was in the military. They got a nice convenient handle on the top of the back, so Ben was hanging on to me as we're hanging out of this brand new Jeep for filming that. And if somebody was on the radio with the ambulance,
we had communication to the ambulance.
So we tell them, like, turn on the lights now, slip over to this.
Oh, wow.
For those particular shots too, we actually had to defocus those in post because the lens choice was a Sony 16-35 G Master, which is a phenomenal photography lens, but it is just tack sharp.
Yeah.
And even at f2.8, we were wide open, since it was about 10 or 11 at night.
Awesome.
So for it was just that kind of stuff. And then, for the top down drone shots, we put the drone over an intersection here in downtown Cheyenne, and we're on the radios with the ambulance crew and said, just, cruise up the street, go faster, go slower, stay in this lane, that kind of thing. And then with the helicopter, we actually had 4 days of filming with the helicopter. So we did the interiors and the exteriors separate. They really edited together very cleanly.
Yeah.
However, it was spread over. There was one day we were in a hangar. It was noon, I think.
Yeah.
We were draping black cloths over everything. And I wound up doing sky replacement posts to make it look like they were actually in the environment.
Oh, really? Well, yeah, I was going to ask, because, the lighting, now that you mention it, in both films is phenomenal. But was that difficult how do you light an ambulance at night at 11 at night, to get the look you're going for?
Aperture MCs.
Yes. We used a lot of lights for the still shots. Those flashing lights are simulated.
Really?
That was we had an Aperture Nova just on that. We finally got to use the police car mode.
Wow.
So, it has all those presets. And so.
Yeah, that, and we put little MCs all over the interior of the ambulance to get enough light in like the little nooks and crannies and drawers.
So
Yeah.
that's so awesome.
The crews actually wanted to keep all of it. They were like, oh, it looks so nice. And it was a brand new ambulance too that they, the American Medical Response, as with all of them, they couldn't have helped anymore. And so they gave us their best brand new, just got it out from being waxed.
Yeah.
Ambulance. So yeah.
That's so awesome. And in both of your films, you use the actual people. That was it. So when you watch Stroke, these are the actual first responders that are doing it. And same thing with parade volunteers. Parade volunteers, as we talked about, is the folks who actually make the parade at Frontier Days happen, which is a super important job. It's super it can go underappreciated, which is why I'm glad you made this. Now, when you're doing that, are you letting? I mean, do people have to sign NDAs? Not NDAs, like allowing their face to be seen? Do you have to do that, or are you just kind of like, hey guys, do your thing. We're just gonna be over here with a camera. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. With that one, it's a little different because we're not really selling anything. We're not using anyone's likeness to promote any sort of product, really.
Right.
We're just telling the story of the people that helped put this on.
Right.
And because it all takes place on public property, we don't really need to get
Really?
for that. For the Stroke video, though, however, we did, have photo video releases from the hospital and all of the people who appeared in it.
Our dynamite producer, Michelle Homar, shout out if you're watching. She's just on top of all that stuff, but she has an all electronics. She runs around with an iPad and is really good about getting folks to sign that stuff. And so, yeah, it's one of those things that it is a problem. It's just not our problem. It kind of sounds bad to say, but yeah, but it's fortunate that we have our project managers from the creative agency step into the producer role when we do things like this. And so they take that part and they do what they do. It's a team effort for all of it. And especially for the parade one too. We also had a transportation captain who was running us around because the parade route's all closed off, parking around everywhere.
Right.
And that first day we filmed was really weird because it was gorgeous. It was foggy in the morning. No, I think it was gorgeous during the parade. And right at the end of the parade, this like little mini squall rolled through, and the weather went from 0 to crap in record time.
In Wyoming?
Yeah,
no,
I know.
Now I believe you shot it in Cheyenne.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So
that's hilarious.
Yeah, it's good.
Well, and I noticed something kind of in both films, which something that went along with the cinematic quality of it, especially in Parade Volunteers, was there was some really cool shots that you chose to do kind of like in slow motion. Like I remember there's one of like a horse, and all of it is like very slow motion, very cinematic. How much of that was pre-planned and how much of that was you after it was shot, just a matter of taste and design?
I think so when we filmed that, Ben and I kind of tag teamed it. So I had one camera, Ben had another, and I think I was filming just about everything in slow motion. I see, and this is where Ben and I make a great team because if left unchecked, I will lean heavily towards Greg Fraser as an influence. Everything's slow motion,
right?
Really, moody color grades and stuff like that.
Yes,
so Ben's the yin to my yang on that. So
gotcha.
That helps. So Ben was doing more the wide shots, I think, with.
We tried to mix it up where I would be shooting wide while he was shooting more tight close-up shots.
Right.
And I think, as you had mentioned in the Q&A for the screening, we pretty quickly decided that the original plan that we had of doing more man on the street style interviews with some of the volunteers wasn't going to serve the story as well.
Right.
And so I think once we had kind of decided that, we leaned more into the slow motion.
Yeah.
And it just, everything looks good in slow-mo.
Yeah, apparently. Everything really does look more, because it's really funny. I've lived in Cheyenne for over 25 years. I've been to dozens and dozens and dozens of parades and everything like that. And I'm sitting there watching it on, the big screen, just going like, oh man, I want to go there. Wait a minute. It's like it made it look really, really, really great. You both did an excellent job.
We lucked out with the weather on the opening drone shot too. That was the only drone shot in it, now that I think about it. But that one where it's coming over the Capitol, The fog had just lifted. The sun was rising. And that was the day that we were filming more the behind the scenes with the mounted marshals, I think. That was the day that you were riding around the back of the trailer.
Yes.
So that we just really lucked out with that, and I helped it quite a bit in the color grade too.
Yeah, well, it's so funny. I mean, I can't stress this enough. Please go and watch both Stroke, which you can see on Cheyenne Regional Medical Center's YouTube channel. It is amazing. Where can people see Parade Volunteers?
TBD. The foundation is still kind of working out how they want to present these video series that we're doing. Because Parade Volunteers is not the only one. We have one other completed one, and then working on some other projects.
Yeah, we talked about this during the Q&A, a potential series of CFD specific.
It's looking that way, and it's at this point it's trying to decide which thing to talk about, because there's so many stories that people don't see, that they go and they enjoy the rodeo and they enjoy the midway and they enjoy the food and the night shows and then just go home. But there's so much effort that goes on behind the scenes to put those productions on. It's just amazing.
Well, I'm super glad you guys are telling those stories, and I can promise you, if your story gets told by these two, it's going to look incredible. I promise that.
And it'll be in slow motion.
And it'll be partially in slow motion. Very. Now, I just I have a suggestion for you. If you're open to suggestions, okay? Because based on hearing these stories with drones crashing and being destroyed in the middle of being shot, as well as you hanging out of the side of a Jeep and being held on by military harnesses and everything, could we get a behind the scenes of the shoots you do? Because it sounds like there's more action that goes on in the making of these films than what we see in the actual films themselves.
I think the West Edge Collective Instagram channel
really
has a good collection of our behind the scenes shots.
So check that out. West Edge Collective's Instagram channel. What's the handle on that? Do you know?
West Edge Collective.
Okay, West Edge Collective. You're gonna see it down below. Check that out, because I just, as you're talking, I'm imagining you guys speaking with ambulances, going like, "Turn the lights on and off. Turn the lights," as you're hanging out of a Jeep, and you're that seems more. I wish the ambulance had like a body cam flipped around on you to see what that looked like.
Yeah.
So
we need to get better on our behind the scenes.
No,
it's one of those things that it's definitely an area for improvement for us.
It's super, super great. Well, thank you guys again for coming in and sitting down and talking with us at the WyORIGINal Podcast. We can't wait to see all of the awesome, awesome work that you do. And I talk so much about how there's all these films from all over the world and blah, 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 blah. But to have you two here in our hometown, it's an absolute treat. You two are both a treasure to have here. So thank you for the work you do.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Why don't you give me love? Why don't you give me more? you give me more? Why don't 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 you give me more?